If you're a beginning guitar player and you're wondering which keys are the best to start out with, you're in the right place. I'm David Harsh with Guitar Success for You. Someone recently asked me, are there keys that are easier or harder to play in for guitar? My answer is absolutely. And today I'm going to unpack the 3 best keys to start with. I also have a secret weapon I'll tell you about toward the end of our time that will allow you to break past these keys without having to learn new chords. Now, I could just fly through this and show you what I want you to know today on the guitar, but if you'll allow me to take just a few moments as we go along to show you why, this will not only help you become a better guitar player, it'll also help you become a better musician, which is something I'm very passionate about. Now, hear me when I say this. You can play as much or as little today on your guitar as you want. If you're just getting started, maybe just watch for this first pass. If you've been playing for a while, the pause button could be your buddy as you try some of these chords I'm going to demonstrate. And I may use different fingerings for a couple of these chords, and I have very specific reasons for that. But for now, we're going to look at the big picture. First, this is a pizza stone. What? Actually, I'm going to put something over the top of it called the circle of fifths. This is a musical treasure that you don't need to understand right now, but it will be with you for your whole musical journey, so it's nice to know that it's there. The deal is this. There are basically 12 major keys you can access, much like the 12 points on a clock, but only a few of them really work well for guitar. If you know about sharps and flats, awesome. If you don't, the basic gist is that the more sharps you add, the more challenging the keys will be to play in on the guitar. Also, keys with any flats are tricky as well. The sweet place to hang out on this circle is somewhere around 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Basically the major keys of C, G, D, and A. But there's something you need to know about a major key, and it's this. Although there are 7 chords in a given key, they're not all equal in importance. Some are much more important than others. Allow me to demonstrate this with the key of C major. This is a C major scale, which you've probably heard. If I play these 7 notes, C, D, E, F, G, A, and B, I've basically played all the notes in the key of C in the form of a scale. And there are chords that fit on each of those scale degrees. If I number those notes with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, I can attach the following chords like this: C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, and B diminished. Each of these chords is either major or minor, except for the last one. Major chords tend to sound happier, and minor chords tend to sound sad. Now, if we number the chords like we did just a moment ago with the scale degrees, we can think of them like this: major 1, minor 2, minor 3, major 4, major 5, minor 6, and diminished 7. So we have 3 major chords on 1, 4, and 5, 3 minor chords on 2, 3, and 6, and a diminished chord on 7. Okay, take a breath. I just gave you some infrastructure that's going to make total sense in just a moment. Remember how I mentioned that some chords are much more important than others? Here's the order of importance for these chords, which does not necessarily correspond to chord numbers, by the way. The most important chord is the major 1 chord, which in the key of C is, you guessed it, C. That's because it's the actual home chord for the key. If we're in the key of C, we have to have a C chord to show us where home is. The next important chord, believe it or not, is the major 5 chord, which in the key of C is G. After that in importance is the major 4 chord, which in the key of C is F. Then, following this is the minor 6 chord, which in the key of C is A minor. Those are the 4 most important chords in a major key. The other 3 chords on 2, 3, and 7, especially for beginning guitarists, are much less important. So we'll just focus on these 4 chords in a handful of keys. Let's do a quick recap of what we've talked about thus far. A major key has 7 notes and 7 chords that correspond to those notes. The most important chord is the major 1 chord. After that, the major 5 chord, then the major 4 chord, and then the minor 6 chord. 1, 5, 4, and 6. These numbers apply to any major key. If you have access to just these 4 chords, you can play a boatload of worship songs as well as pop songs. Don't believe me? Let me show you. Here are just some of the worship songs out there that can be accessed with these 4 chords. And here are just some of the pop songs that can be accessed with these 4 chords. Now, we've been talking about chords, but now we need to think about keys. Here's why. Certain keys, as we're going to discover right now, are much easier in the hands of a beginning guitarist because those keys contain certain chords that are easier to play than others. Now, some keys have more bar chords, especially as we move further along the circle of fifths. If you've experienced bar chords, you know they can represent a bit of a challenge, especially for a guitarist who's just starting out, because they require the fretting hand index to lay across many or all of the strings. Now, if barring is difficult for you early on, wouldn't it make sense to play in keys that have fewer bar chords? Nod your head. It absolutely would, right? Let's go back to the pizza stone, or the circle of fifths. Here at the top, at 12 o'clock, we have C major with 0 sharps or flats. That's the key I just demonstrated a moment ago. But here's the challenge with C major. It has what is typically played as a bar chord on the major 4 chord, the F. Now, I realize that you might play it as a partial bar chord like this, which is sort of like a bar chord because there are no open notes. Now, following our 1, 5, 4, and 6 hierarchy, the 4 most important chords in C major are C, major 1, G, major 5, F, major 4, and A minor, minor 6. So with F major, the major 4 chord being so prominent and important, some beginners steer away from the key of C major. Therefore, in my opinion, although it's super important to know about, the key of C is not ideal for beginning guitarists. But let's move to the 1 o'clock spot on the circle, and we've got wonderful news. This key, the key of G major with 1 sharp, is undoubtedly the best key for beginning guitarists. Why? Here in G major are the 4 most important chords in order of importance. G, major 1, D, major 5, C, major 4, and E minor, minor 6. Guess what? None of these chords appears as a bar chord. They're all open chords, which makes them easier to play. So the key of G major gets my vote for the most beginner-friendly key on the guitar. And if you want even more accessible shapes in G major, check out our recent video where you can learn 4 essential guitar chords to play real music. These shapes are even easier versions of the chords I just taught you, and they sound great. The normal chords I just showed you also sound good, and again, they are all open. I'll just strum them for a moment to show you what these 4 chords sound like in the key of G. Want to try another key that's quite friendly for beginning guitarists? Sure, why not? Let's move to the 2 o'clock spot on the circle. This is the key of D major with 2 sharps. I'll just play the 4 most important chords in this key. They are D, major 1, A, major 5, G, major 4, and B minor, minor 6. Okay, this last one is a bar chord. Now, I do have a beautiful way to play this as an open color chord. And to help you find a more innovative way to play this chord, I invite you to join me in the Chord Lab with Dr. Dave as he unpacks an amazing variation of B minor that you may not have even known existed. But we can play this B minor chord as a partial chord, which doesn't sound quite as final, but still works. Remember what I said though, as the minor 6 chord, B minor is the 4th most important chord in D major. So you could just get by with D, A, and G. So D major is another beginner-friendly key. I'll just strum a bit in D major. Okay, I've got one more beginner-friendly key, plus a bonus secret weapon to share with you. Before I continue, I really want to invite you to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Here's why. We are closing in fast on 10,000 subscribers, and the more people we can reach, the more people we can serve. Plus, if you subscribe, you'll know as soon as the next awesome vid unlocks. Thanks in advance. The last key I want to show you today is the key of A major with 3 sharps. We've moved along the circle of fifths from G with 1 sharp to D with 2 sharps and finally to A with 3 sharps. These sharps influence the notes and therefore the chords in these keys. The 4 most important chords in the key of A are A major 1, E major 5, D major 4, and F sharp minor, the minor 6. Now, we've got some overlap with some chords that exist in some of the previous keys we've talked about today, which is great. I love overlap, but we do have an F sharp minor chord here, which is typically available as a bar chord. And again, we can play this as a partial chord, but do consider that F sharp minor is the minor 6, the 4th most important chord in A major. So we could just play A, E, and D and do quite well in this key. And here's me strumming the chords in A major. So let's take a look back at the circle of fifths here. Although there are 12 basic major keys, these 3, G major, D major, and A major, are the most beginner-friendly keys. I'd say if you had to choose just one for now, go with G major, especially if you want to be able to play a bunch of great worship songs or even pop songs. Okay, are you ready for the secret weapon? It's the capo, or as my friend Tommy at the G7th Capo Company in the UK calls it, the capo. That's technically a more accurate pronunciation because the original word is capotasto, which is Italian for head tie, because we sort of tie it near the headstock of the guitar. Did you know that? Now, this might not be as secret of a weapon to you, but it is a very powerful weapon in the right hands. Using a capo is not cheating, by the way, but thinking while you use a capo is an excellent measure of musicianship. If, for example, you liked the shapes for G major, but you wanted to access the key of A flat major, you could place the capo on the 1st fret and play those shapes. I'm now in the key of A flat major. No new shapes, but access to a new key with new chords. Pretty cool, right? What about B flat major? Well, I would need to put the capo on the 3rd fret and play these same shapes. We've accessed yet another key with these same shapes. Now, we could go on up the neck, but you get the idea. I can now have access to pretty much the entire circle of fifths with just the same 4 shapes. So this begs the question, why learn any other shapes? Because it's all about the flavors. Let me explain with an analogy. After college, I was much more creative with my music than I was with my cooking. I made Caesar salads, Lots of them. I went to my local Costco warehouse and I bought large amounts of 4 ingredients: romaine lettuce, Caesar dressing, croutons, and Parmesan cheese. Just 4 ingredients. And I ate Caesar salad every day. Sometimes twice a day. You picking up what I'm putting down? The full measure of our craft as musicians is waiting for us as we explore more flavors, more colors, more keys, more shapes, and more chords. So start off simple with the key of G major, but then move on to some of these other keys with and without the capo. Your commitment to growth as a guitar player and musician will take you far. Now, if the win for you today was to realize that G major is your best option right now to help you get to playing real music, then I'm rejoicing with you. And if the key of G is enough for you, that's awesome. Find some songs, even from my list, which I'll include in the description below this video, and start making real music, perhaps even with other musicians you know. But always keep that healthy restlessness alive that will lead you to more musical discoveries. And when you're ready to discover some helpful tools for strumming, I got you. Our most popular video on the channel right now, by far, is our strumming workout. It will help you solidify your strumming in a seriously fun way. I'll see you there.